eventually reality will come and punch them right in the nerds. Like, that's just what's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but the dildo of consequences very rarely comes lubed.
It's in the shape of a fist.
Yeah, with spikes.
It gives more powerful meaning, literal meaning. Do you want to be right or do you want to be married? Do you want to tear your relationship apart?
You can't stomp around and insist that you were right. So imagine that one person in the couple is better at verbal disputes than the other.
You're just good at your skill of talking.
If your wife has a problem with you, you want to help her make her argument, just on the off chance that she's got something to say, because maybe she's right.
Well, one, don't cheat.
Okay.
Don't throw that thing out there.
Sure.
Sever all ties with any male contacts that you've, previously had.
So basically, it's cut off access to other guys.
The chief jobs of masculinity is to protect femininity. And if you are doing your job right on what genuine masculinity is supposed to be, not just the aggression, not just the competitiveness, not just the capability for violence, but the honing all of that in order to serve a noble purpose, you will be shocked at how that will call out femininity as well.
Cannot win an argument with your husband, and he can't win an argument with his wife, not unless he wants to defeat her.
He defeats himself.
Well, he lives with a defeated woman. That's not helpful.
And you guys are one. If you defeat her, you defeat yourself.
Not least because now you're living with someone who's defeated and bitter. You can't stomp around and insist that you were right. So imagine that one person in the couple is better at verbal disputes than the other.
You're just good at your skill of talking.
So one of the things you want to do, if you happen to be the person who's better at making verbal arguments, if your wife has a problem with you, you want to help her make her argument, just on the off chance that she's got something to say, because maybe she's right. It's going to be in her interest to straighten you out. It would be in your interest to listen. That's part of loving your enemy. That's part of giving the devil his due. You want to find out so you don't have to bring the trouble forward.
So I think that that's very interesting, because I think that's something that we have grown to do now that we did not do early on in our relationship, where when we're having a conversation, a lot of times I will ask you clarifying questions. And if you cannot provide clarity because you're like in your feelings or something at the time, I'll try to rephrase it in different ways to see which one hits right. Because sometimes it'll hit wrong, and then you'll just go ahead and, be in your feelings for a while.
Let's make it work.
And it's like, look, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to do anything but figure out what is. I'm not even trying to solve a problem at this point. Just trying to see what the heck is going on. Right?
Like even just that. If you did nothing else, he's not trying to hurt you.
Yeah. And it's like
that part, I think, when, you have like disagreements, when you have issues that you're trying to address, knowing that the other person, or actually even just, especially if you're new to this, stating verbally that this person across from you, that you're having feelings directed at them that aren't the best, that they are not intentionally doing whatever, saying whatever, making you feel however, intentionally to hurt you.
most of the time that is the case, that they're not trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? If you picked a good one, chances are that is the case.
Otherwise.
And if you didn't pick a good one, well, you know, either that's a red flag, or if you're in too deep, maybe you need to go ahead and get some professional help. But I think that one of the things that was hit on is the idea of trying to win an argument. And here it is. For most of the things that we have disagreement on, it's just a matter of seeing something differently. I think for most of our policy prescriptions and most of our way of living, most of our beliefs are very similar. And so we're not usually having fundamental disagreements on substance. It's mostly on packaging and how we deliver it. So
And nuance.
And nuance, right? Like little bits and pieces, like little 5-degree separations from things. And I find that often it is best to try to tease out the knots in the spaghetti ball that you've got going on and try to pull apart the little strands so that I can go ahead and take a look at the architecture of what's going on and get some semblance of understanding, and then take that and rephrase it back to you. And most of the time, we're pretty close.
Yeah. Is this what it is?
Is this what you're trying to talk about?
Is this your card?
Right? And it isn't about trying to win the argument. It's trying to understand you and trying to figure out where your contention is most of where the conversation leads.
Yeah, and it's definitely founded out of we're not trying to compete with each other. We're trying to work together. And sometimes there's some kind of discord or like we fall out of step and we need to find the way forward again.
Sure, and find the
best
common
way
ground.
forward.
Yeah. And I think that it's interesting because this goes back to just how men and women fundamentally communicate differently. Is like you want to narrate a story and I'm trying to get the key points from the cloud of the story rather than like trying to participate in the story for its entirety takes a lot more attention and emotional weight than I have most of the time. And it's just one of those things where I can go ahead and communicate better with you over the long haul if you go through it and then we try to deconstruct it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't want to win an argument and like Jordan was saying was, hey, why would I want to go ahead and be living with a defeated woman?
Yeah. Do you want to, and it gives more powerful meaning, literal meaning. Do you want to be right or do you want to be married?
Sure. And the thing
Like,
is,
do you want to win this argument or do you want to build, like, do you want to tear your relationship apart a little bit? Well, little by little, relevant here. Or do you want to put another brick to reinforce it and go forward?
yeah, it's like, do you want to put it under strain or do you want to go ahead and reinforce it? Is the general idea. And like, you're not looking to win an argument against me most of the time. And like, we know that generally speaking, I think better on my feet than you do, but you think better when you have a long time to kind of like go through all of it. I just recognize that a lot of times in life, I don't have the luxury of having all the time in the world. Is that a lot of times I have to make decisions relatively quickly.
Most of the time, I'm the one that's kind of erring. If you want to say, you know, right or wrong, most of the time I'm the one who's wrong and needs to get more with the program anyway. Like, I understand that. So why would I sit there and just try and grasp at straws just so I can have something where I was right? Even though I wasn't completely right, I was right here. I've seen that. I've just seen it in too many relationships, and that is so detrimental. Like, okay, cool, you want this little bitty bit.
Well, you're just trying to
Why?
score points is what the
Why?
deal is. And it's like, look, the scoreboard isn't, hey, I've got 50 and you got 7. No, the scoreboard is we have 57 is the way to look at it, right? And I want you to be able to score points, just like I want to be able to score points for our betterment collectively. And I think that when you have a mind frame that we are one and we are a team, it is much better to look at it that way than to look at it from the perspective of competing interests.
That is why the Bible starts from the beginning. One flesh. One. Just one.
Sure. And I mean, like, for the most part, that's talking about children more than it's talking about the actual relationship.
I think it's talking about way more than that.
Well, okay, sure. There are lots of pieces to that, but I would say primarily it's about children, and then everything else gets wrapped up in the overall package around it.
Especially when you create a family.
So, bottom line, trying to argue with each other for the sake of winning an argument is generally not a positive thing to be doing in a relationship. Agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on.
What should women do?
I feel like before marriage, I don't think a woman should do that much compared to the man. I mean, I feel like us just being there is enough.
But why can't a guy say that? We go 50-50 till we're married. I'm not going to buy you anything till we're married. I'm not going to protect you until we're married. Women don't have an issue saying men should do X. But the moment men say women should do this, you guys kind of have a problem with it. I'm asking you, though, what should women do?
I think women should look cute, be presentable for their man. I feel like us just being in their presence is enough.
Don't you think that you should act like a wife if you're asking for wife treatment?
I mean, I think it's literally just an individual thing, because some men are completely fine with their woman doing nothing, like literally.
So how is she contributing to the relationship, and how does that not make her just a sugar baby?
I mean, it depends on what label they decide to put on it.
If there's an objective truth to that label.
I mean, yeah, like I guess there's a like dictionary definition of a sugar baby.
So what do you think about that?
It's interesting that they're even talking about an if before marriage.
Okay. What do you mean?
Because they were talking about what was the original question.
What should she bring before marriage? Is basically what they're getting
A
at.
woman in general or a wife?
Well, a woman before marriage.
Just a woman in general,
Well,
right?
I mean, if she's going to be a wife, she needs to be a woman by definition, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
like the original question was pertaining to women or pertaining to a wife?
I think what's the difference? We can look at it again, but I think
What should women do?
Women.
what
Okay.
should women do? There you go.
So in the scope of relationships.
Yes.
It is different before and after marriage.
Okay.
Like in my opinion.
Right.
This is from where I stand, it is different before marriage and after marriage.
Great. What's the difference?
The difference is honestly, the crux of it is sexual access.
Okay.
Absolutely. But also it is based on what the man is expected to do after marriage.
What do you mean when you say
Which
that?
is like retire her, right?
This is your opinion. I'm not.
Completely. Well, we have a generally shared opinion of this, so like I'm trying to like draw on like common
Okay. I'm just not trying to put words in your
common
mouth
knowledge.
right now.
Yeah. But so after marriage, a man is supposed to provide and pay for stuff, right? And buy all the things and, let her make the house and whatever. Like he buys the house, she makes a home.
Okay.
That kind of whole thing, right? So, woman is maintaining the home, maintaining, providing care for the children and all of that. And then the man is like, go and work, pay the bills, right? And she gets to support him in whatever common dream they have, because that's supposed to be a whole shared vision, right?
Okay.
But before marriage, that's what the crux of what they're discussing is.
Yes. So focus on that. All of
So,
what you've said has been after marriage stuff.
Before marriage, all that women should do in a relationship is provide their point of view toward marriage. You don't enter into a relationship with a man if you're not considering marriage.
So that's still not tangible things. What should they do? If a guy is here in this example, basically the rest of the table is expecting a guy to provide and to go ahead and give provision and protection, all the things that are expected of husbands during a relationship before their wives. What should a woman do to then become a wife?
Well, one, don't cheat.
Okay.
Don't throw that thing out there.
Sure.
Sever all ties with any male contacts that you've, previously had, unless you guys talk about that it's okay for both of you, and essentially start to discuss whether or not you're compatible to be married or not.
Okay. So basically it's cut off access to other guys.
Yeah.
Is really what they should do.
At this point, because we have two tenets that hold up our marriage, as far as my behavior and my dynamic toward you.
Sure.
Obedience and loyalty. Loyalty first, because that came before marriage. Obedience came afterward. That is the second one it's almost like my two rings here.
Yeah.
Like my engagement ring was loyalty. My second one is now obedience. Those are the two things that hold up a marital relationship.
Okay. So I think you're hitting on it a little bit more now, is the idea that loyalty is the thing that a woman should bring to the table, and to open herself up to be scrutinized for whether or not he has a shared vision with her for a future. Okay. So really there isn't like a lot of actual things that are expected of her as much as her to be. So you can go ahead and take that dynamic, like this chick was saying, and say that basically you're saying the same thing is, hey, she just needs to be there, right?
Now, if you want to, it's kind of a different dynamic if you're talking about relationships nowadays that they cohabitate and all of that stuff without being married.
Right, but I don't think you want to go ahead and go into that because that's not really
but
the thought process.
I think what they're trying to do is like, if you guys are living together and you're not married, and do you do the whole 50-50 thing?
I think they're talking about before like cohabitation even. I think that's really the thing is like, hey, look, if the basic question that Brian is asking is, if you're expecting a guy to bring all this to the table, what are you expected to bring? Right?
And
I
the
think
thing
that's
is,
the fundamental question.
They are then the crux of the matter is they are expecting all of this stuff that a husband is supposed to do
without being a wife.
Without them having the responsibility of being a wife or providing wifely duties to them other than sex.
Okay, like what?
He gets to make the rules. He gets to make the biggest decisions. She can advise, but she doesn't get to make those decisions and all of that.
Her decision is whether or not she's on the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are kind of just sitting there and they can just be like, I don't like this, change it or I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a normal thing is like, hey, I have gotten passage on this boat and I thought it was good at the time. Now I don't, so I'm leaving. And I think that's really how relationships kind of should be developed is like, hey, if you guys aren't seeing eye to eye, you should part.
But they don't even have those preemptive things where it's like they check the itinerary and all of that stuff. They don't do that anymore.
Sure. Whereas I think that you and I would be in agreement when we would say that dating for the sake of dating is kind of silly, and dating for the sake of like approaching for marriage makes a lot more sense. But I think that in our current legal environment, I think that women should probably be expected to bring something more so that it is an attractive prospect to a man to decide to look at the potential consequences and make the decision anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that is really a hard thing to put on men in this society, in this culture.
So at the same time, if you are not religious at all, I find it very difficult for women to come up with a solid set of rationales as to why a man should marry them in the first place. If they're going to go ahead and cohabitate and do all the things, all the carnal things without the commitment, right? So if they're already giving away like all the carnal pleasures and all of that, why should a man marry her?
I don't know the answer to that.
Right? And I think that's the fundamental question here is like, if you have a relationship where there is no transcendent cause or transcendent vision for the both of you, it is difficult to justify taking on that liability, especially if the guy is going to retire her and at some point she can go ahead and change her mind and leave with cash and prizes.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if they're going to go into it and there's no transcendent vision, no transcendent cause, and they're going 50-50, he has less liability in that because she's putting in sweat equity too. And that's a big difference.
Aside from the fact that most of the time it's not going to be 50-50.
It isn't, right? And even if like the guy retires the woman and like she says she's supporting him, he's doing most of the work to get it done. And so a lot of times women will choose a guy who's already successful, who's already on his game. And that's why they're attracted to him in the first place. And then they come in and they claim his success as their own. Whereas he was already 95% of the way and she went ahead and just like pushed him 5%. She's like, oh, I deserve half, right? Because that's kind of how our laws are written. This is why if you're a dude and you're on your game and you're already getting somewhere, get a prenup. Just saying. If she didn't put in the work from the beginning, why should she go ahead and get half? What are your thoughts on that?
So even if you build the kingdom alongside, your accomplishments and all of your stuff are not mine. I will not wear them. That's almost like the dependopotamus thing.
Oh, with the military wives where they go ahead and try to wear their husband's rank?
Yeah, and demand the same salutes and sirs and man. It's like...
Which is completely delusional.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like that. Your accomplishments are yours. I would never want to take them from you.
Right.
I would never want to claim them as my own. I am absolutely so stinking proud of you for everything. But also alongside that, I know why you do what you do. And it's honestly, sure, for, as far as building a legacy that will last, because that's what we're mandated to do.
Right.
But honestly, if you want to point to someone or something, it's right here. You do this for me because our relationship and our marriage is what holds and propels our entire family forward. Essentially, I'm not saying like it's for all for me and so. No, it's very.
I would take what you're saying,
nebulous,
and I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. I'm going to steel man it.
Okay.
Okay. I would say that what I do is not primarily for you, but you are definitely a beneficiary of it, and you are definitely a reason to do it, right? But I would say that the primary reason is my own, and it is transcendent. And it is because I know that I have responsibilities that I do what I do. And I am the primary beneficiary of it, but I go ahead and I'm incredibly happy to share it with my wife and my children.
So honestly, when I started the thing, it's like if you needed to point to a someone or a something, I'm just saying that part. Like if you had to. And materialistically speaking, like if you didn't have that transcendent cause, blah, 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 all of that stuff, like if we didn't have that, if it was just like, this is what it is and that's all there is just it, right? So we have something to leave the kids, but honestly, yeah, so partially what I'm talking about is that you talked about I'm the monetary beneficiary of stuff.
Yeah, you are the beneficiary.
You buy me things.
Well, sure. But the thing is, like, that isn't all that it is, right? And
no,
in fact,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is just a very small, like, if you're talking about materialistically.
Sure. And so the thing that I would want to go ahead and reinforce is, like, whether it was you and me or if it was me and somebody else, I would probably still do most of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not saying that it is for my unique person. It's just for the person in the wife seat.
Right.
I'm not saying that I am irreplaceable. I am replaceable completely. I said that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But it's one of those things where you understand that and you understand what your responsibilities are.
Yes.
And when you take on your responsibilities, you become more difficult to replace, which is great. It is a wonderful thing for both sides of the equation to work for their own benefit, not only for their own benefit, but for the benefit of their spouse as well.
I think the best illustration of how this works the way it works with us is that I wear your name.
Yes.
And even when in a formal setting, if I was to, go to a dinner with you and stuff where they had like place cards, I would want it to say Mrs. Michael Richter.
Right.
I would not want it to say Mrs. John Richter. Because I even have on my email return, it's Mrs. Michael Richter.
Right.
Because that, and even when I send things in a more formal capacity, that's how I identify myself. Because that is how it works.
Right.
I that is part of being married to you and coming alongside and coming in under submission to your authority. I get to wear your name.
Right. And so going back to the original question of, hey, if a guy is expected to bring these things to the table, what should a woman bring to the table? I would go ahead and say that the best things that she could bring to the table is openness to investigate and to take the time to inspect the boat, test the captain, and check out the itinerary. And if those three things are on board and ready to rock, then submission should go next, because it is to her benefit to strengthen the captain in what he is doing because she already likes what he's got going on.
See previous step.
Right. But does that make sense to you,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, hey, we're doing all the carnal things. It's we are being intentional about what the future holds.
I mean, yeah, as you know, talking about the traditional, the more conservative chick was like, why are you doing wife things if you're not a wife? Essentially.
Well, and the thing is, if that's a direct exchange for provision, then you're basically a sugar baby, is what she was pointing out. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas if there is something transcendent to it, then point out that which is transcendent. Point out the thing that is the important part. Don't point out the direct trade. Mm-hmm. And if you have the direct trade, point it out, and you are offended by it, well, that just goes ahead and shows you that there's something else going on in the relationship, or if there's a lack of something else going on in the relationship, then you're on really shoddy footing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just need to either do the thing or leave it alone.
Makes sense. Cool. Let's go to the next one.
One of the chief jobs of masculinity is to protect femininity. And if you are doing your job right on what genuine masculinity is supposed to be, not just the aggression, not just the competitiveness, not just the capability for violence, but the honing all of that in order to serve a noble purpose, you will be shocked at how that will call out femininity as well. That nurturing component that you were looking for. That sort of woman that takes every instinct that you have as a man and just helps refine it towards something that is noble. There is a reason why a man will crawl through broken glass for the woman that he loves, is because there is something about that for us is just the height of beauty we will see this side of heaven. And it's not just the physical, it's everything that comes with it.
It's so beautiful.
What do you think about that?
It's funny because like he was talking about, a man crawling through broken glass for the woman he loves. And it's like, it's not the one woman he loves. It's for the woman that is there in that place.
Right. It's not a matter of the specific woman. It is that who is wife, right?
Mm-hmm. She who is wife.
She who is wife.
That's really funny, the thing. But it shows, it really is a great illustration of the polarity and the creating the framework for this beautiful thing to grow.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he brought up 3 specific things. He brought up aggression, competitiveness, and capacity for violence. Mm-hmm. And like those things are hallmarks of traditional masculinity. But it is the way that those things are tempered and controlled that go ahead and really dictates the man. Whether you have them in the first place is really important too. Because a lot of people will think that, oh, if I'm just like a gentle lamb, then that is true masculinity. Well, it's like, no. The difference is whether you can be violent when the circumstance and the situation arises, but to have the wisdom and the self-control to keep it under control and under wraps until the proper time presents itself. Mm-hmm. Right? Just like aggression. Like it is really useful to be able to channel aggression for a target that you really need to get after. And just like it is really useful to go ahead and be able to channel a competitive spirit to accomplish the wonderful things in life. But if you go ahead and just let it run rampant, it's going to ruin relationships left and right, because then you're going to be competing with everybody and everything rather than going ahead and trying to be the kind of guy that creates a team and in the context of the team competing against other teams.
It's funny because like I'm just sitting here thinking about why would people want this, him talking about it. I was like, why would people want that 50-50 thing? Especially why would women want 50-50?
Because they're indoctrinated to have it.
Yeah, because I'm just sitting here going, why do I need to like over masculinize, part of me to make up for that other half that I need to come up with? Mm-hmm. Like, why would I have to make up that shortfall and go out of my own element just to provide that? So I feel like I'm, I don't know.
So that reminds me of the conversation we had earlier on the podcast where you were raised to go ahead and want to get an education for the sake of supporting yourself if the situation necessitated it, right? And that thought process became less and less applicable over time, especially when it was very clear to you that it did not make sense, right? Most women do not have that realization, right? Is they're brought up to go ahead and be like, I need to go ahead and support myself. I need to do this. I need to do that. The other half of it is we live in economic times where it is difficult off the jump to be able to make that a reality. And in times past, it was much easier to just go to the factory, work 12 hours a day, and make a meager living and call it good. Whereas now, 12 hours a day, if you are not spending a portion of your time improving your skills and getting better and being more marketable, even 12 hours a day, a lot of times people are not going to go ahead and live a very satisfying life on one income. And so sometimes it is people's economic conditions that lead them into this 50-50 or 60-40 kind of thing as a matter of reality. Because not everybody has the privilege of being able to be retired at 18 or 20 in your case.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair. But even aside from like the pragmatic stuff, like, you know, work and paying the bills and all of that stuff, like, why do I need to like step out of my femininity and put on that like stuff that isn't for me, like isn't it naturally in my element, like that, oh, I'm gonna protect us and blah 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 blah. I can do anything he can do kind of thing, just so I can feel like I don't need a man and all of that stuff.
Well, yeah, it comes from pride.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it. That's essentially it. It's that pride and selfishness and like that you have to be this or you're not that.
Well, a lot of it is, hey, I need to have this in order to have some semblance of control. Like I need to be able to have an escape button just in case things go south, because a lot of women are just programmed like through their biology and through culture to look for danger in every circumstance. And like, you know this because of the whole security gland thing. It's just that your circumstances are unique in that for the most part, the survival things are not things that you're concerned about, right? It has been so long that you've had to be worried about any of that.
Yeah. But I've seen so much that even, you know, a lot of couples that I've seen where they do find a good man who wants to provide, or at least, you know, to try. And it's going to be a struggle, obviously, and you're not going to live like lifestyles of the rich and famous, but you're going to live a solidly secure life with that person if you just let him.
Yeah. And then like have tempered expectations of what life should be, right? I think a lot of times people are trying to keep up with social media and all this other nonsense that they see, and they get themselves buried into debt and all this stuff to go ahead and put on appearances. Whereas if you were to go ahead and focus on needs first and then work on building on wants later, like I remember really early on in our marriage, what we would do is we would focus on needs. And one of the things that we would do is every year we would get a tax return. And on the return, we would go ahead and make one quality of life upgrade. And like one year it was our bed that we still have 20 years later. Like we went ahead and invested like a whole tax return into a good solid bed, right? And that's just a good example of like understanding the difference between needs and wants. And each year we would go ahead and have one quality of life upgrade that we would get, and we would be really thoughtful months in advance about what we would do with that. And I think that even taking that on as a tactic could be useful in building up a life where you are supporting a family on like less than ideal means, but you have things to look forward to and you have things to do together for your mutual benefit, and not like trying to crave after new cars every 3 years or whatever.
Yeah. Or vacation to Disney every year or twice a year.
Right. these kinds of things that keep people trapped in jobs for a long time, right? Is this desire or this expectation for a certain thing. But I think that's something that you go ahead and express throughout the relationship or at the beginning parts of the relationship in, as far as women testing the captain, checking out the boat and looking at the itinerary, is if you are on board with that and he has given you this is the direction, then you have a better chance at having that life where she can be more or less retired and he can go ahead and handle the financial load for the family. But that does come with substantial risks. Like, hey, if he loses his job, things are going to go ahead and be rough for a little bit. So there's responsibility in the family to be able to come up with like savings and stuff like that. So you have to go ahead and cut back on certain things sometimes to generate that padding for when things don't go as planned.
Yeah, and you can have an industry for those times, but it's always on the understanding that it's a temporary thing. And especially given that no matter what happens circumstantially with your family, the structure is still the same. He is still at the authority. No matter if, for this period of time, you happen to be making most of the money that you guys are living on.
Sure.
You can still live that way, temporarily.
Right.
This is a spare tire. This is not the whole. This is not the actual tire.
Right.
This is just the donut.
Yeah. And which is to say that like, no matter what your income level is, so long as like the dude can go ahead and support himself and then a little bit more. Because like, honestly, for two people to live is not that much more expensive than for one person to live. Most of the things that like housing is like the biggest difference. And that can go ahead and be economies of scale, and then food and like other minor maintenance stuff. Like it's not that much more to go ahead and live as two people than it is to live as one person, which is why I think it's kind of crazy how our society like wants to go ahead and break up families, where now you're spending all this money on having two households, like the guy who's paying child support to the woman, and then the woman, has whatever apartment with the kids, and now you're paying for two apartments. Whereas if you were to have stayed together, you have substantially less financial strain. But I mean, there's any number of reasons why people get divorced nowadays. So do you have any more thoughts on that idea of masculinity typically attracts femininity?
I just think it's a beautiful illustration of like how things work. Most of the time it's if people can get out of their own way.
Well, and I think that guys naturally want to go ahead and serve a family.
Yeah.
I think
it's like if women can get out of their own way of having, thinking that they have to do X, Y, and Z to have certain amounts of, power in a relationship, and you really don't. Why? And honestly, it's so much better that way. If you just kind of get over yourself, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that's tough for a lot of women because they don't have that security, right? Is that security gland keeps throbbing and they're unwilling to give up that authority and caring over that.
Yeah, I think it all dials back to not having during the dating relationship process, the vetting process, not having the negotiations, the discussions, the vetting, all of that stuff. Not doing all of that means you just kind of picked one all wimbly bimbly, and now you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
But you do throw a fit in that.
You do throw a fit, and you get divorced.
And you roll the dice again.
Again, have the talks, and don't like date somebody that unless you're seeing what's up.
Right. I think that's a foreign concept to a lot of people nowadays. Is like the idea of dating with purpose. Whereas I think that our society would be much better off if that were the case. Because like family formation is probably one of the most important things that we can do to improve a society. And the destruction of a family is something that we can see has demonstrably negative effects on our society as a whole. Speaking of which, did you know that Kentucky went ahead and changed the way that child support works?
Do they require a DNA test?
No. So what they did is they did away with like the
Paternity test?
Well, the presumption now is 50-50 custody in Kentucky. Whereas like the presumption had been like every other weekend for the guys. And so just by changing that presumption as far as how child custody works, divorce has gone down 25% in the state of Kentucky over the last 5 years. So it turns out if there's no cash and prizes involved and you take away the incentive structure for divorce, that you see less of it. To the surprise of no one, right? If there's less money in divorce, then fewer divorces are going to happen, right? Wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig into the main topic that we have for today. Picture a steel chain that's left outside in the rain and in a puddle. At first, steel will be strong. It'll go ahead and continue on. But over time, it'll go ahead and rust. And, well, I guess we could use iron because steel technically doesn't rust. So iron will go ahead and rust over time. And the structural integrity of that iron chain will degrade over time. And though it is not something that happens overnight, it is something that happens slowly over time and inattention. And eventually, that chain will break and be much more brittle than it had been well cared for along the way. I think that in a dude's life, comfort works the same way. That if a guy gets too comfortable, that it wears away at him like rust to an iron chain. What are your thoughts about that? Just like off the top.
This year, my kids and I, as part of their science, got started to do science experiments for the first time. I was like, oh, cool, we get to like do weird lab things. And the biggest takeaway is that we hate working with vegetable oil.
Oh, okay.
And corn syrup. Corn syrup is the worst to clean off of beakers. It's terrible.
Okay.
We hate it. Okay. But that aside, we get to see a lot of, and essentially right now we're talking about a lot of chemistry related things. And there are things where it's just like, you don't see the thing, you put the thing together. And of course, especially teenagers are like, they want to see right away, right? They want to see it happen, like the chemical reaction.
Okay.
But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. It just sits there and just nothing happens. And you're just like, But then all of a sudden, very slowly, it starts to happen. And then there just comes a point where it's like, wait a minute, there it is. And there's times where it's like, it takes a while even to register from the time when it starts. And that is like that, where you don't notice. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? What happened?
Right. Okay. So today we're going to go ahead and uncover how comfort kills men slowly and how we'll fight back with strength, clarity, and having a good tribe. And that's kind of what we're doing. So first, we'll talk about the hidden trap of comfort.
It's a trap.
So I would say that there are many things that serve as sedatives to men in our modern society. I would say things like corn. I would say like television, doom scrolling, consumer debt, and like Uber Eats are things that will go ahead and ruin a guy over time because they help him to be placated and be substitutes for living a life of meaning.
Nobody come for us. Uber Eats has its wonderful place in our ecosystem, just in this area for this purpose.
Uber Eats is a sometimes food.
Don't sue us, Uber Eats.
No. We like Uber Eats. It's just the idea of, hey, it's a restaurant, so you're going to go to a restaurant instead of like cooking healthy meals and stuff like that. That's the thought process, not the actual delivery system itself. So I would say that the reason why it draws men to it is that it makes life appear to be less stressful. You go ahead and you have the easy way out for a lot of things that typically would take some challenge, right? So if you're ordering takeout, you're taking away the challenge of actually preparing a meal and cooking it. If you are looking to Ladies of the Night as a replacement for a committed relationship. You don't have to go ahead and put forth the effort to learn and to know somebody, and instead you get the fix real quick. For just watching television or watching streams, you're watching somebody else living life rather than living your own life. What do you think about those things?
It's like you said, it's all like self-medication. It's just it keeps you complacent. It keeps you numb. And so you don't get to feel anything, you don't get to experience anything. It's just like when you read a book or you watch a movie and you listen to a story, nobody's going to listen to a story that just has and he got up and he went to work and then he got home and he like checked on the new content from his OnlyFans and ate his drive-through dinner and went to sleep and did it all over again.
Yeah, it's definitely not an inspiring story by any stretch.
If there's no conflict in a story, it's boring. If there's no struggle or character development arc, it's boring. And this is the difference. And if you want to just be alive and then not be alive, after your time on Earth has completed its full natural course, stay here. Don't go anywhere. That's fine. Not everybody needs this extraordinary life or whatever. But at least, read a book, learn something, stuff like that.
That takes effort, though.
Yeah. Anything that's worth doing and is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah. So this is interesting because I think that a lot of these things that placate men reminds me of that scene in The Matrix where finally it is revealed that all these people that are in the Matrix are living in a simulation and their actual bodies are being used as batteries for the machine. I think that is an interesting allusion to what happens in modern society where a lot of guys are handling things like infrastructure and things like that and handling like basic requirements of the society, and they are choosing to self-medicate on these things like just binging on corn and eating out and all of this kind of stuff rather than living a more fulfilling life. Is they're providing their service to the community or to the society, and they are being drained of their life essence over time. It turns out it takes a lot of effort to rise beyond that. And it is really easy for guys to fall into this because it almost looks like the default pathway to life is to go ahead and do just enough to go ahead and have a basic living where you don't put in extraordinary effort, but you don't get extraordinary results.
Even if you're doing more of a, structural job. We live here where there's a lot of, oil field and all of that stuff. And a lot of them have families and they are essentially working to provide a solid life for their families. And it definitely can be done. But if you don't have anything beyond your, just like doing just enough to keep your wife happy and keep your kids like fed and clothed and all of that stuff, and you're not engaging with life and you're just, dancing on both sides, and then you go back to work and you're just existing like that, even with, a family and
even
all of that.
Even with a family, you have this stuff that can happen.
It can happen. Then essentially, like you brought up the Matrix, you are the battery that powers that machine. Don't be that. That's terrible, especially when you have, some of life's precious gifts and you don't, and they're gonna just be gone and out of the house like in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. The sad reality is, I think that in a lot of ways, our society needs that. It needs to have these kinds of things to placate men and to get guys to not think too carefully about themselves and their place in the world, right? Because I think that it reminds me of in times past where you had kings with like 1,000 wives and 600 concubines and stuff like that, and like the average guy couldn't reproduce, and a lot of times they would go ahead and get together and rebel, and there would be serious problems in society. Well, in this way, in our current society, it seems like based on how people act on dating apps where chicks are just swiping on the top 5% of guys, that we have like a soft form of polygamy going on right now, where it's like these women are willingly sharing these top guys, and all of these things to desensitize men are being used to placate them so they don't like rise up and get upset. Does that seem like it has any kind of like dose of reality for you?
Yeah, but mostly it's like you don't need to like, oh, well, I was a plumber for a while and then I got this invention and then I made like $1 zillion because this is not where I want it to be. Or like a construction, or oil field or any kind of like thing that most people like, oh, is that what you do? Kind of thing.
Oh, you're talking about like high status and low status.
And
Okay.
then you use that as like a stepping stone for another thing. But even if that stepping stone doesn't happen, like you can still live a dynamic life.
So that implies extraordinary effort, right?
It
because
does.
if you go ahead and talk about how, living the life of a plumber, which is a pretty like physically demanding job a lot of times.
You make some serious pay.
You make good money nowadays in the skilled trades, and having something on the side that you're working on is still over and above like effort that you're putting into something. And usually the fact that you're putting in effort comes with rewards, even if they aren't like directly tangible, right?
But even if you take the example from like the top and you're like, day trader and you're making like bank or whatever,
Okay.
Bitcoin bro and all of that stuff, you can still self-medicate and like blind yourself to completely everything other than like I make like zillions of dollars.
Yeah, you can go ahead and be really functional in one area of life, but then like fall off the cliff in all the other domains is basically what you're getting at,
Yeah,
right?
it's still, you can still just exist and not actually live.
Okay. So I would say that there are plenty of examples of how indulging in these replacements for that which is good and true can go ahead and cause problems in our lives. For example, physically, if you're going ahead and eating out all the time and you are not putting in work to go ahead and maintain your physical appearance or maintain like your heart health or things like that, it's really easy to get obese in our society with the way that we've got all this like low satiety but high fat foods in our food supply, especially with takeout. They go ahead and add sugar and salt and fat to things to make things taste a lot better.
No, they're not even like food. They're like food-like substances.
A lot of times, sure, it's like they're overly engineered for that purpose. I think that also you end up seeing that if you fail to maintain your physical health, you end up with like low testosterone for dudes, and that ends up with all kinds of problems. If you go ahead and look at not putting in effort financially, you end up living like a paycheck to paycheck life, and you never can truly retire. Is you can never go ahead and stop working, and you end up having to like eat cat food and crackers and live in this tiny apartment and be a greeter at Walmart to go ahead and just make it because you're not making it on Social Security, if it's even there when you retire.
That's my concern for like our generation and later is a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck and they don't even think about like what's going to happen when I don't have a paycheck anymore.
Sure, they're so busy in their paycheck to paycheck life that they do not have the time and the mental space afforded to look beyond. And that's the tough thing is eventually reality will come and punch them right in the nerds. Like, that's just what's going to happen. And like, it's unfortunate, but the dildo of consequences very rarely comes lubed.
It's in the shape of a fist.
Yeah, with spikes. So if we go ahead and talk about like succumbing to the traps of comfort from a spiritual or an emotional standpoint, I would say that like having emotional numbness, being like overly passive, and just not having confidence are net results of these kinds of things. And then it's like a self-perpetuating like death loop. Is if you end up falling for traps in this or in the physical domain, it is very likely that you're going to fall for traps in the financial domain. And if you fall for traps in the financial and the physical domain, it is
inevitable. It's almost inevitable
that you're going to go ahead and end up with mental health issues and all these other issues that crop up and just really mess with people. Mm-hmm. So does all that jive with your experiences?
It sparkles.
Okay. So when we go back to the iron chain, we recognize that rust isn't something that happens overnight. Mm-hmm. It is something that happens slowly and silently over time. It is just a normal chemical process of the iron being exposed to the water and the oxygen over time for it to be oxidized and rust over. Relationships, if you don't go ahead and maintain them and keep them in their proper form, will do the same thing. Whether it is a friendship, whether it is a marriage, you're going to have the same kind of consequences. Same thing happens in careers. If you are in a career and you are not improving yourself to go ahead and go to the next level up, you can easily just rot where you are for the rest of your career.
Yeah, and some higher up person who doesn't get around to every single crevasse of the organization is going to see a list of names going, we need to downsize. Who's this guy? I don't know. Cross him off.
Sure.
You're gonna be, if you are the ones who is going to even to the company picnic and being good at volleyball or something, even that, oh yeah, that's that guy. We like that guy. We can't do without that guy.
Sure. But I mean, you're still doing something exceptional. You're doing something to be noticed.
Yeah,
right?
That's the thing.
And but
if you're doing that, you're sitting in your little cubicle and you don't talk to anybody, you don't engage with anything, and you just do your whole little routine, you're going to be the first off the list.
And then so same thing happens with like your physical health. Like it's really easy to just not pay attention to what you're doing and to go ahead and eat an extra meal, to get an extra like double quarter pounder with cheese and be like, oh yeah, this is going to be fine. Or have another refill of your Coke. And then all of a sudden the calories just ramp up real quick. And then the pounds and the inches add up real quick. And sometimes it is scary how quickly that can happen. Mm-hmm. But all of those, whether it's relationships, careers, your physical health, your emotional well-being, all of these things are things that require maintenance in order for you to live a life worth living in each of those. And if you fail to attend to those over time, it's going to end up with consequences. Now, there are some warning signs that you can go ahead and look at before you start progressing down this death spiral. And I would say that 3 big things can be used as warning signs. One is if you avoid challenges. If things take too much effort and you decide, I don't want to do it because it's over there. We joke about that, right? Like, hey, I don't want to go ahead and charge my phone because the nightstand's all the way over there, and I'm gonna have to roll over to go ahead and charge my phone, right? That's like silly stuff, but this is real life. Mm-hmm. Is if you go ahead and say, I don't want to put in the extra effort to be a true partner to my spouse, over time that has consequences, right?
And definitely if you're someone who says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get hyped and I'm going to do a thing, and then you get to a certain point and then you back down. And if this has happened like multiple times, well, I'll go do this, and you do it up to a certain point, and when it gets too difficult, you abandon it and you go like and you jump to the next exciting thing. It's like, are you chasing true like success and excellence and joy, or are you chasing dopamine?
Right. Or the shiny quarter syndrome is the way that I go ahead and normally put it is, hey, this looks cool. This looks exciting. I'm going to go ahead and chase this down. And then now I've got this shiny quarter that I've put so much effort into going and reaching out and grabbing. And then now that I have it, it's not as shiny as I thought it would be. Let me go look for that shiny quarter and go get that one.
Respect to all my dopamine deficient homies out there.
I think another clear warning sign that you are getting ready to get on this on-ramp to the death spiral is if you complain about your circumstances, but you don't do anything about it. If you're the kind of person who says, oh, life is so hard, oh, I don't know what I can do about this circumstance, and you just whine and complain and do absolutely nothing. Not only are you holding yourself back, but everybody who listens to you doing the complaining is made worse by hearing you complain.
It's funny because you can see those people, and especially the people who truly care about you and they want to like help you and try to give you at least just little bits of like, maybe you could and maybe you could. And if you're the one who says, but I can't because this, and like
you have a special
you just like slapping all of the hands to help, all of the life preservers while you're drowning, you may want to take a look at things. This might be you.
Or maybe you just want to drown. Or maybe you just like don't have something that's worth living for and you don't care. And that's sad.
And what's interesting is that if that is you, and then you go to certain like groups of people and stuff for support, and it becomes just this massive like victim graveyard sort of situation where we're all just going to wallow in our own misery. So you have this echo chamber of validation for the constant like playing the like victimization of self-victimization.
Are you talking about Reddit? Is that what you're doing?
Well, a little bit Reddit, but just like groups of people, because, you know, as I have issues with like chronic illness and a lot of things, and, you know, ADHD and like chronic illness stuff and all the spoony things and whatever. And some of those groups I've had to just leave because it is
a cesspool.
It is the death spiral. It is all the ants death spiraling together. And nobody wants to even look up and go, what are we doing here? Maybe we should actually get out. Like, there are very few people, if there aren't at least a regular amount of people in those kind of support groups that are saying, hey, I'm struggling with this specific thing. What has helped you? I get out, because then you're just wallowing. You're not trying to actually seek support. Well, it just becomes a cry fest.
Right, but like I think a lot of times that's the way women want support, is to go ahead and just vent,
be validated,
and to be have their feelings validated, right? Whether or not there's a practical element to it. Like we talked about, like solving problems, right? Where a lot of times women will go ahead and complain to their guy, and the guy wants to just solve the problem,
right,
rather than like listening. And so there is a genuine problem usually, because she's got feelings for a reason, but it's really difficult for her to ascertain exactly why she feels what she feels. And it is oftentimes the guy's responsibility to listen, not to respond, but to listen to understand, and to go ahead and go on the ride and figure out what she's not saying.
At least for a little bit.
Right?
Don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck in like, this is your 8th time on It's a Small World and you're gonna like go insane.
Right. At some point you go ahead and say, hey, I'm seeing this. Is there something more in this area that we can go ahead and focus on, and like kind of direct her storytelling? And at some point you figure out that this thing she's actually having a problem with has nothing to do whatsoever.
Your princess is in another castle.
With the first 5 minutes of the story.
Oh my God.
And as frustrating as it is as a guy, it's important.
Sometimes that happens.
A lot of times that happens.
Sorry, it happens.
Right? And then you go ahead and address the actual problem, and life is so much better for both of you. But if you didn't listen to it in the first place, if you didn't listen to that first 5 minutes and find out that wasn't the problem, you would never have actually heard what the real problem was in the first place. And you'd try to solve problems
like
that
the
were
secret
never
exit door.
You try to solve problems that were never presented to you in the first place. It's like a dang smoke screen. You got to go through the smoke screen to figure out what the heck is actually going on.
But at least, you know, and this is another testament to at least you just got one. You're dealing with one person, not like then on to the next one to hear her problems and on to the and figure out where those secret exit doors are.
Yeah.
At least you have been with the same one with the same kind of crazy.
Sure. But like having those processes is part of the maintenance of the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't take the time to do those things, the relationship will sour, just like all these other things that we were talking about. Now, I'll go ahead and share that there was a time in my life where I went ahead and did not take good care of my physical health, and I paid the price for it. Is when I would go ahead and work 12-hour shifts and have like, I'd be working on night shifts too. So I was working like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And like they had a cafeteria on and you could just get whatever. And being there for 60 hours a week, just in a dark place with no windows, was really terrible for my health. And I would just get whatever and wouldn't take good care of myself. And I ballooned out real quick under those circumstances. And at some point, the military is all like, hey, guess what? You have to take a PT test. And I'm like, crap, that's right. I got to go ahead and actually run and do all this other stuff. And so...
Record scratch.
Right. It was just like, oh, crap, I got to do something about this. Or I could have like disciplinary problems or it can go ahead and affect my career. And so then that would be the wake up call. And then I have to go ahead and put in the monumental effort where if I had just maintained myself, it would take less effort than the monumental effort I had to put in to go ahead and lose all the weight that I had put on by just eating cheeseburgers like a dummy, right? Like if I would just eat one fewer cheeseburger a day, I'd probably be better off. But no, I had to have the sixth one. It was the sixth one that got me, not the first five. I could have done without it. But yeah, like it's really easy for this kind of stuff to go ahead and creep up on you and then like have real lasting consequences. And like I joke about it a little bit because like, hey, it's in the past and now I'm taking good care of myself and like it shows. But having known that experience to be the case and like what it actually takes to go ahead and maintain, I am much better off now just taking the minute effort to go to the gym a couple times a week or maybe 3 times a week and not eat 6 cheeseburgers a day. It turns out it's a lot easier to do that than to just like let it go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With all that said, I think that the next piece of the puzzle is, well, what do we do about this then? Like, obviously you go ahead and take maintenance steps and like you take the chain out of the water. Right. Well, what does that actually look like? I would say that men specifically need pressure to get stronger. It is like building muscle. You need to go ahead and apply a certain amount of resistance over time for your muscle fibers to tear and repair themselves and get better. Is there something similar in woman world as far as how to go ahead and grow and develop?
In a physical sense?
No, just generally speaking. Physical, it'd be the same.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah. You know, generally that's how it works. You know, move more, eat less.
Yeah, move more, eat less. Yeah. Typically, that's how that works.
I think we thrive more on finding the one thing to just get the ball rolling. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Especially...
what do you mean?
Well, especially in the realm of...
relationships, maybe? Is that what you're getting at?
Just more of that 1% better kind of atomic habit situation where you just need the one thing that sparks you to start doing other things.
Okay.
And I definitely think there's a lot of merit to, you know, finding somebody to, you know, come alongside. And even if they're not doing the same thing that you're doing or somebody just to check on you. We are people pleasers by nature, most of us. So like having somebody be like, hey, how are you doing with that? You know, what you doing? Or at least like, hey, what do you think your one thing that you're going to do, you know, that you need to be doing? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the plan?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So that's interesting that you bring that up, because that's like the next point is like bringing people along with you. But let's go ahead and just hit up like elements where men could go ahead and use resistance as a means to grow. So in terms of physicality, we talked about going to the gym and training yourself and participating in disciplines. Maybe sports is a good thing for dudes to go ahead and get themselves involved in, or like martial arts of some sort, like things that are physical in nature and something to participate in to get you moving, to like be at least part of that, like move more, eat less kind of thing, is really useful to guys. I mean, honestly, it's probably useful to women in a lot of ways, but we're speaking specifically to men in this piece. And then as far as financial, I think some resistance points is actually like sticking to a budget. Like I think a lot of people will not have financial discipline in a lot of ways, and they'll just kind of like spend until the card runs out of money. Like we had a customer at the stall last week when I was running the stall, because it's the first week of running new operations and all that. And an airman came up and bought a little stuffed cat, and she's like, "Oh, I hope there's enough money on the card." As she's buying something frivolous, and I'm like, "Hey, just letting you know that you don't need to buy this. Like I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but if you're worried that you don't have enough money to buy this stuffed animal, maybe
There will be more cats later.
Maybe you can get a cat later." No, she went ahead and still did the thing and bought the cat. Her card didn't decline, so there was still money in the account or on the credit card. I don't remember if it was I'm pretty sure it was a credit card. I don't think it was a debit card. But yeah, just that attitude of
girl.
I'm going to go ahead and spend on frivolous things, and if it can't happen, it can't happen.
Yeah.
Just try the card. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm like, that's wild to live your life like that. But it just goes to show that it does exist out in the wild. I have seen it with my own eyes in front of me, and I thought that was crazy. I was like, how do people live like this? Where they're just like, oh, it reminds me of my mother and how we would go ahead and live as a family. Is she got used to doing this feast or famine thing where like she would sell a house and then all of a sudden there's a commission check.
Dude, she still does that.
Well, yeah, but it's in fewer degrees now because she has a consistent income rather than
removed from us because she does it on the grandkids, not us.
Yes, and we don't bear the
Which I'm fine with.
We don't bear the consequences of the famine cycle, right? Whereas, like in my youth, when she would go ahead and sell houses, a commission check would come in, and then oh my gosh, we'd just go ahead and blow money, and then a whole lot of nothing for a while. And then Grandpa had to help out. Thank you, Grandpa. And that was kind of the thing. And there are lots of people that live life like that. And I knew growing up that I did not want that for my family, because that's a recipe for disaster. Because if one thing goes wrong and you're like depending on the next big wave, you make suboptimal decisions in exchange for that. Because now you have to go ahead and be willing to let go of some of your integrity at time to go ahead and make things happen. And I think there's a lot of danger in that.
Yeah. Do not play Russian roulette with your credit card.
Where your finances
Especially your
in general.
credit card.
So we talked a little bit about budgeting being a form of financial discipline to help you choosing to forge your life rather than sitting on the couch. I think other things is learning how to invest is a useful thing. Once you've budgeted, another thing is to step up your game and learn to invest. How do I go ahead and make money so I don't have to focus on using my time for money?
YouTube University is free.
Yeah,
free
it
tuition.
turns out there's a lot of people out there that can go ahead and help you with that.
Just start watching videos about that kind of stuff. I think anything that we have wanted to like venture into, with me personally, it's not that serious because it's just my hobbies and whatever. I like start binge watching a bunch of videos. Like you can always tell what I'm leaning toward by, borrowing the kids, getting on my YouTube and watching weird brain rot stuff. But other than that, it's like, you can tell what I'm about to get into. What kind of trouble am I going to cause now?
Sure. And I think beyond investing, another thing that guys can go ahead and get into is like building a side hustle or building like a business on the side while they're doing their normal thing is a way that they can go ahead and forge and temper themselves over time. Because honestly, to be a business owner, you have to go ahead and consider a lot of things that a normal like W-2 employee does not consider whatsoever. Like you got to go ahead and figure out, cash flow. Hey, how do I go ahead and deal with creditors? How do I go ahead and open up accounts to buy product? What do I do as far as like sales tax? All of those little like administrative things and all the things about building out systems and processes, the key elements to a business, that takes a lot of effort. And I think that is a really important like piece to a guy who wants to like really level up, is to consider things outside of his personal domain. And then as far as like relationships, like being able to have honest conversations with people is like a good way to face resistance and to go ahead and forge yourself for the better. Because it's really easy to go ahead and put on a mask with people and substantially more difficult for you to engage with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you're not going to be faced with people that are in your tribe, and you still need to be able to work peaceably with others to achieve your objectives in life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, does that sparkle?
And again, anything that's of any significance is hard.
Mhm.
This is hard stuff that we're talking about, as far as, especially when you start to try to move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if you push a boulder or whatever, something heavy, the first part is the hardest, because you have to overcome, like, this is basic physics, right? You have to overcome the resistance that you're getting.
Yep.
You have to overpower that to get it moving, especially something circular where it'll rock back on you a little bit, So,
Sure.
in finding your people, do not limit the vital parts of yourself. Now you can edit a little bit, mannerisms, and you don't, especially in a group dynamic, you need to not dominate the conversation.
Or be outright offensive to like most people.
Just, some thoughts are still inside thoughts. Okay.
At least until you find your people and you're safe to go ahead and like express yourself in a more honest way.
If you're going to macro edit yourself just to be acceptable, and as a woman, this is huge.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to macro edit yourself and also limit yourself because you are afraid of not being acceptable to a group of people, those are not your people.
Sure. And if you're a dude and you believe that she's editing herself for your sake, it's probably better to figure out who she actually is.
Because that mask, it's going to fall off.
Yeah.
One sooner or later. Like, do not do that.
And get to know the real her, like, and maybe what's beneath the mask is better than what the mask was. Right. And a lot of times they don't feel comfortable being themselves because they have learned over time that themselves they are not acceptable to most people. Whereas in the context of a marriage, it doesn't matter if she's acceptable to most people. It matters if she's acceptable to you, right?
Warts and all.
Right. And figure out, like, does that make sense for the context of what you're looking for in life?
That's the best, honestly, for me. I'm going to say it. Like, it's the best part of us, that I can just be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I can just be completely a mess and be like, just mess, help.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like, I'm not going to be valued as less than, or I'm not going to be seen as like, oh my gosh, every single time it's like, why are you such a problem? It's
right. But I think a lot of that is like, you conduct yourself in a respectable manner at that point. Like, you understand that, like, hey, you're bringing a mess and you're not like gross or entitled about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you come at it from a perspective of like, hey, can you help me with this? I am a mess right now, and here are some things going on. And I just go ahead and look at you, and I go ahead and give you a look, scrutinize a little bit, and then I just bring you in and embrace you. And half the time, that's all it takes. Half the time, it's just giving you a good solid hug, and then you're like, no, I'm better now.
It's like a system reset.
Yeah.
But it's also being with a man that I feel comfortable and honestly I feel safe with. Like, and I can be that and just fall apart and just be a blubbering, and it's like, hang on, I just need to cry about it, and then we can actually talk about something. But that is part of that vetting process.
And I think that if you are taking the time to discover these things in your relationship, you are putting in the effort to build a solid relationship. And you are less likely to face the rot associated with, rusting chains and stuff like that in the context of a marriage, that you are striving for a better relationship in general. And it doesn't mean you like kowtow to everything. It doesn't mean you make yourself a doormat on either side of it.
Either side.
It just it just means that you, as a guy, look for the benefit of others while maintaining your own frame and the boundaries around the relationship. Because it is in doing those things that make it so that she can feel safe to be her. Now, here's some practical challenges to go ahead and get yourself off the couch and into the forge. And if you're talking about like, hey, you can obviously see by looking yourself in the mirror and say, I have some physical challenges, like maybe your gut is a little bit bigger than it should be, then maybe going for a run or going for a walk or lifting heavy things could be in your future. If that is something that makes sense to you, go do it. If you have financial problems where you look at your account balance and sometimes the number is red or there's a dash in front of it, then maybe you need to go ahead and track your expenses a little bit better. Maybe that's the challenge, is like take a month and like actually look at everything you spend and see if it lines up with what your impression of it is. Because sometimes people will go ahead and swipe the card and not even pay attention to it.
It's like you have like $500 on a card, and then you swipe the card for buying like, $120 of groceries, or, especially when it's like $123.67,
And then a bunch of $3
really
monsters.
And then you walk out of the store with your little thing of groceries and you're like, I have $500 on my card. I think honestly, it's that removal from actual paper money. And this kind of thing, the financial thing, is why cash envelopes are making a comeback.
Yeah, that reminds me of the whole Dave Ramsey thing, and like how in the budgeting piece, like every element of spending has an envelope associated with it, and it's cash because it sensitizes you to the fact that money is leaving your hands, right? When you can see the dollar bills as you are handing them over in exchange for goods and services, it hits different than running a card. At this point, like I've got enough financial sense that like running the card, I understand like the mechanisms that happen in there. I don't need that behavioral anchor, but a lot of people do.
And it's funny, if you think about how the progression of this to digital dollars goes, it was first, cash money. Like first it was like actual like gold and like coins and stuff like that. It was actual things, and then it became representative of things,
right?
Like the money, and then it like went to all
currency
like paper.
Was IOUs for money in a vault.
Yeah, and then it was like the cash system, and then now we got to credit cards and like even checks and stuff, but you would still do the thing where you remember the little check register where you balance your checkbook. Now everybody throws those away, even if you have to get checks for some weird reason, that they only take a check. That nobody does that anymore. Nobody balances their bank account, their checkbook.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is a function of like having online banking.
Because it's online and it does it for you. But I think the actual practice of doing that and it being done for you, that is what really made the leap toward divorcing your brain from your money.
Right, because you're not participating in the discipline associated with it.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you were doing that, the only tangible benefit to doing that nowadays is, one, establishing the discipline, or two, like keeping track of a check that you wrote and then it doesn't get cashed until 2 months later, right? Those are the only like practical things. Whereas nowadays, I think most people could benefit from that practice. But at this point, it's not a thing for me. Like,
Definitely. Like, if you do have a general hold of things,
I have a
you just
system.
need to get back to just putting your eyes on it more.
Yeah.
But if you really do struggle with this, especially if you have ADHD, object permanence situations, difficulties.
Maybe cash is a good idea.
Maybe you got to do some cash envelope stuffing. Find cute ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, find yourself a little, like at the dollar store, they have like the little accordion thing. Put them in there.
Sure.
Label them.
Yeah, and then maybe so we talked a little bit about maybe if you have physical challenges or if you have financial challenges, if you have like relationship challenges, maybe one thing you can do to move the needle is have a tough, honest conversation. Because I guarantee you that you're going to have there's something going on in a relationship that you've got that you're either tolerating or you are just livid about, but you don't want to deal with the consequences associated with bringing it up. And oftentimes that will rot away at you because you have that resentment that builds up over time because of that situation that you're not willing to deal with the consequences to overcome.
Yeah, and you're passively just holding on to that. And it's like an infection, like a boil that's just festering. One of the a show that I've watched, like, and then it's gangrene, and then you can't save the leg. Like, she
And then you
actually
gotta cut it
went
off.
there. Yeah, she goes there, and who wants to cut off your leg? And you just could have lanced it and been done with it.
It's a metaphor for life right there.
It is. It's about life. But it's interesting, all these little things that, are these cracks in your relationships. And people sometimes don't even like, oh, well, it's not that big a deal until it becomes a big deal.
Yeah. So I think we went ahead and hit up some various challenges to go ahead and help people to move themselves off of the couch and move the needle in improving their life.
That's why I love that you're doing all of those like small bite-sized challenge things. It's really cool.
Yeah. Every morning, we got a 30-day going on right now, and then we had a 30-day about a month and a half ago too. Check them out. There's playlists. All right. So the fourth thing is brotherhood. I think this is probably one of the biggest antidotes to rust is that accountability and having people that you respect in your life to hold your feet to the fire when you are not operating at a level that you should be is incredibly useful to men. And I think that a lot of times men will be isolated in comfort and not realize the benefits of being in community. And so they are there partaking in all the comforts that we talked about earlier on in this podcast. Whereas if they were with a group of men that they honored and respected, that they would sharpen each other like iron sharpens iron. And I think that when you live in isolation, you are much more likely to rust than you would be if you were with other people. Now, I'm going to go ahead and encourage you dudes to find a tribe. If you don't have your tribe, find one. Find a group of dudes to live life with, especially if you're young and you're in the suck. And I guarantee you, there's a bunch of other young guys that are also in the suck. Life sucks less when there are 4 of you guys dealing with life together and come up with challenges for each other, for each other's benefit. That's really all it takes, is to go ahead and lift each other up one small step at a time. Like, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about, one of my tribes is I've got a group of guys that I play cards with on Thursday nights. And all of us, the things that we have in common is that generally we are believing Christians. Generally, we are retired Air Force. There's a Space Force guy that's getting ready to retire. He was Air Force. He went ahead and crossed over. I'll still count him as Air Force for the most part, even though he would go ahead and be like, no, that's not us. And then we play Magic the Gathering. We have a great time doing that and just enjoying each other's company. And it's really funny because on the back of a card, it says Magic the Gathering, right? Magic, and then in the little words is the Gathering. And it's really funny because there were 5 of us and a commander game usually is 4, I went ahead and volunteered to sit out so that the other 4 guys can go ahead and, have a good time together. And one of the older members of our group, because there's a big age gap in there, I'm among the younger of us, and then there's a guy that's 10 years older than me, and then a guy that's 15 years older than me, and then a guy that's 25 years older than me. So there's a big age differential in there. And the older guy had come out, and you could tell that he was a little bit drained. It was like 9 o'clock. It's close to his bedtime anyway. But he was turning into a pumpkin. But he had expressed a little bit of exasperation with something that had happened. And I took the time to take a card, and I flipped it on its backside, and I handed it to him. And I said, the small words are the important part, which is the gathering, right? It is the gathering that is the important part. It is the time spent together, enjoying each other's company, and fellowshipping among your brethren that is the important part. The game is a vehicle for you to have time together with your brothers. That's the important part. And there are a lot of times where we talk about all kinds of stuff going on, whether it's problems with a dude's grandchildren or problems with like, oh, my daughter's getting married, I got to go ahead and do this and this. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we have to talk about. And there's times where we share our griefs and we share our burdens. And it's really important that you have guys in your corner that if you have something going on, that they will take the time to look you in the eye and say, hey, you are screwing up in this. There is something that you need to change. And to be willing to look you in the eye and do that in an honest way. And after you make the changes, to come back and say, I have noticed that you have changed for the better. You are doing well. Keep it up. It's those little things from people that you honor and respect that make all the difference.
And they have your best, the best interests at heart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the trick is, like, how do you find this group? Like, if you're interested in things, find other people that share that interest.
Yeah. Sometimes you guys just play cards.
Sometimes we just play cards.
These big earth-shaking movements like week after week after week. Sometimes you just play freaking cards.
Yeah.
You rip on each other. It's a good time.
Yeah. And sometimes we just go ahead and cause each other problems in the game, and we just go ahead and poke at each other and see what we can get. See if we can go ahead and rustle their jimmies a little bit. It's just fun, right? Yeah. But at other times it's just, hey, like serious stuff happens.
Your life is together. Yeah.
But back to the original point of, hey, how do you go ahead and find your people is if you have an interest, find where people with that common interest gather, whether it is in a physical location or whether it is a matter of online forums, maybe it is, Facebook groups, whatever it is, find people that share your interests and find people within those interests because, hey, other people that share your interests may not be a good fit for you in other areas of life. Find people that you jive with within that and invite them to go ahead and spend time together. I think that's really the interesting thing. Like when I met my people, they were playing cards in my store and I just was like, hey guys, do you have an extra seat? And they didn't know I was the store owner, but it didn't matter. It was just like, hey, you guys seem like interesting folk. And I knew both of them from different contexts. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of interesting where they're like, yeah, come on in, let's play. And I mean, that was in 2020. That was like not too long after COVID started.
Yeah.
And we just had a good time. And
then you just like, hey.
And we'd adopt new people as they came along.
But then it was like, hey, do you want to get together like next week? And actually coordinated a thing. So you're like, hey, I found this group of guys and we think we're going to set something up weekly. You told me this. I'm like, really? Go.
Yeah.
Please go. No matter what. I don't care how frequently it is and whatever. And that's another thing. There's not 50-50 where I would go and hang out with friends and whatever once a week and you would go twice a week. Well, that's not fair. No, this is what you need.
Sure.
I knew this is what you need. And I was so because that is, I can provide you a lot of support. I do, but I can't do what they do.
Right. You just have a different context for a lot of things. And you do not face the same kind of challenges that I face. So while you can sympathize, I don't think you can actually empathize. Right.
I don't have the plumbing.
Right. Sure. But like that aside, like the breadth of experience.
I wouldn't be here if I did. So.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, like the idea is, hey, we have a lot of things together, but fraternity is not one of them. And that's important.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I think like also, I love that, more than one is older than you by a bit. Because that whole like Titus 2 dynamic, that mentorship and all of that, it is really sorely lacking in our generation and younger, especially. But I think it's a lot of it is, the generation of our parents and stuff is a lot more like, I don't have anything that you're going to want to, I don't have anything to say that you're going to want to hear. Like, they're almost like, I don't want to encroach on your stuff. And because there's a huge divide. And just somebody coming to them and saying, hey, will you, and not in so many words, like not, will you mentor me, please? Like a promposal or something, a mentor-posal.
Yeah.
It's weird. But, they're just like, yes, absolutely. Like at church, I actually have a group of women where I am the youngest by far. And it's just like a few ladies. And I almost like when I saw them and they were like, yeah, we have a group chat. I was like, can I be in it?
that's so funny.
I really did throw elbows and make a space for a seat at their table. And they embraced me and it was wonderful. I mean, obviously they're all at very different life stages and their marriages are very different. And one is single. Really, our commonality is our common faith.
Yeah.
We go to the same church.
That's it.
But we have very different views on things. But you can always just find something and find good people that have some kind of common thread.
Right.
That's it. It doesn't even have to be like, we have to align with everything. No, you don't. It's probably better if you don't, because then you get different perspectives.
Yeah, because like you don't want to go ahead and have an echo chamber for the whole time because at some point it makes it difficult to go ahead and like deal with some of the challenges outside of the purview and the perspective of that echo chamber, right? Because sometimes there are blind spots that'll come up that just you have not taken the time to consider in its totality.
Like the one king of Israel that like didn't listen to the elders who had experience or whatever, and he'd only listen to his friends.
Yeah.
And he was a terrible king.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. So bottom line is like find a band of brothers that you are comfortable with being held accountable by and holding accountable
and being
themselves.
Authentic.
And being
together.
authentic with, right? And that's really the lesson is not only are you taking individual personal actions to go ahead and shake off the rust and to be a better version of yourself daily so that you don't go ahead and waste away and wane away and become like a battery of the Matrix, but you have a group of people that are impacting each other's lives and so that you all can make a better impact in the world around you. And to go ahead and kind of wrap things up, the idea is that comfort is killing men slowly. And sometimes we need to go ahead and get accustomed to being uncomfortable so that we can go ahead and rise to be the guys that we were supposed to be.
Be better, do better.
Yeah.
Live better.
Now, if any of this resonated with you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and we're happy to go ahead and provide you more content on a regular basis and be that kind of guy who refuses to rust away. If you know somebody that could go ahead and use this message, I would encourage you to share this with them so that they can go ahead and join with you and do something better. Make it a great day.